Good morning, folks. My name's Shay Douglas, and I'm really excited this morning. I'm calling in from Australia, and I've got a very special guest on the show with me today. It is Dr. Bruce Lipton. If you don't know who this man is, today you're likely been living under a rock for the last 30 years. And that's just a joke, but I just wanted to give a brief introduction to this man who has profoundly, significantly impacted my life in such a positive way through a lot of the work that he's done through his books, Spontaneous Evolution, the famous Biology of Belief, and of course, my personal favorite, The Honeymoon Effect. One of my favorites out of that book and a lot of the work that you do, Dr. Lipton, is really just bringing the gap closer between the scientific world and really closing the gap on this more spiritual realm. And something that I really value in that work is the way that you articulate through your books and through your videos. I'm a big fan of videos. It's a great way for me to learn, and you really appreciate your time doing these. And it just really helps in the way that you articulate it to put in context, in a scientific context, a lot of the way that you articulate it. It really quantifies this kind of spiritual talk, and it puts it in more practical implications, which I really love what you do. So I just wanted to thank you so much again for your time, Bruce. Part of this conversation that I really feel enthralled to just dive deep into is based upon a new film that we released, the Regeneration, which Dr. Bruce Lipton features in, and it was in 2020. The 1st of January, I remember it like clear daylight, when Dr. Bruce Lipton, he gave a beautiful presentation to us here in Southeast Queensland in Australia. And I was kind of just quite blown away by the presentation. It really struck home because it was done with not just extreme passion and enthusiasm, but it was like really piercing into the hearts of the people, and myself included, to really begin to be the change, begin to enact change. And part of the topic of the conversation was being an architect of a new civilization. And I'm really curious to dive into this with you, Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm curious, what does it take for each of us, those who are watching right now? I want to thank you for tuning in. And for those who are in the world, there's so much going on right now. There's so much change, so much uncertainty in the air, but I also see that's huge opportunity, huge potential. And for human beings at this moment to recognize the significance of being alive in this moment, and how we can personally look at what it takes to be a cultural creative. And if you could potentially elaborate on that, what is a cultural creative exactly? And how do we really put into place, in our everyday lives, so that we can contribute back, live in service, and really be in this shifting movement? We could be part of the wave to really start seeing the change in the world, to create this new earth, to be a part and contribute back. What does it take, and what is a cultural creative exactly?
Well, first of all, refer to me as Bruce, which is my name, which I really like because that's the one I got. And let me start off with a couple of premises, a couple of points that are very necessary at this moment. And I'll start off with two very important points, and we'll tie it all in. Important point number one: the chaos that you see going on around this world is right on time, and it's required. And I go, what do you mean? I say, science has recognized now for, God, over 15 years that human civilization has upended the environment, upended the web of life so much that we have precipitated what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet, which by definition already says there were 5 mass extinction events before this. And I say, what does it mean, mass extinction? It says some cataclysmic event happens that undermines the web of life, and up to 90% of life disappeared and then came back again until the next cataclysm, and then went through that. We're in the 6th mass extinction. The 5th one, the previous one, was 66 million years ago, when the dinosaurs were here and the world was flush, tropical-like forests, and life was teeming, and a comet hit near Mexico, a big comet that upended nature, wiping out up to 75% of life, wiping out all the dinosaurs and a lot of life forms that we don't see here anymore. They went extinct in this process. And right now, civilization has been responsible for creating what is called the sixth mass extinction of life. And the sixth mass extinction of life simply says that human behavior has undermined the web of life so much that we are destroying the web of life without recognizing the most important fact. We are a product of the web of life. We are nature. And if nature disappears from underneath us, so do we disappear. And I say, so what's the issue? I said, we've been in a mass extinction event for about 15 years, meaning species of organisms are being lost faster than in previous mass extinction events. But it's due to the way that we are destroying the environment from which we come. There was a separation that somehow humans thought they were separate from the environment. I mean, the Genesis story said, oh, nature was created, and then they added some humans like an option at the very end, that we were not part of nature, we were added. And also the biblical story says we were given dominion over the plants and animals, which means, oh, we are the masters. That's what it said in the Bible. Now, science came along, changed the Genesis story, came to a story of evolution. But the important part about the conventional evolution story is it results from what are called random mutations. Random mutations, by definition, are accidental mutations. And that an organism, two organisms mate, let's say dogs, they make a litter of puppies. And I say almost all the puppies look just like the parents. But then there's a weird one, the runt of the litter, the different one. And I go, well, what does it represent? He said, well, there was a genetic alteration in the development of this particular puppy. And I go, if the alteration makes the puppy stronger, it will survive and pass on the new genes. And if the alteration made the puppy weaker, it'll die out and won't pass on the new genes. So evolution is a series of random mutations followed by what is called nature selects or natural selection. I go, so what is the relevance of that? And it goes, well, if the mutations that started our evolution were random events, and I said, then what's the purpose for us to be here? And the answer is, well, obviously there's no purpose. We were here randomly. So between the church, which gave us dominion, and modern science, and listen to this, this is the mission statement. What is the mission of modern science? Well, it was actually written in 1650 by a philosopher scientist, Francis Bacon. And he said, the mission of modern science, which is still present, is to obtain knowledge that we can control and dominate nature. That's the mission of science, to get at the knowledge so we can dominate and control nature. I go, well, how's that working out? And I go, well, apparently the knowledge we have acquired is enough to destroy nature and not survive in it. So we're facing a mass extinction. And that says, what does that mean? It says, well, since it's caused by human behavior, then guess what? The only solution is to change human behavior. And this is what we're experiencing right now. And I say, what does it mean? It said the current version of culture on this planet, the behaviors that we are ripping off the Garden of Eden, that we're pillaging, we're taking all the resources, and we're using up this planet like it was just a bunch of stuff to use up. This process is what has separated us from nature and has caused us to destroy the web of life, which we are part of, which means we are destroying ourselves. The extinction we're talking about is not like 1,000 years from now, it's within decades. For example, it's recognized by science that, listen to this, 2048, how far is that from here? Not very far. There will be no fish in the ocean on planet Earth. That's almost like a science fiction story. There's no fish in the ocean. Why? A, we've overfished the population. B, we polluted the water. C, we destroy the breeding grounds the way we fish and put nets over and grab all that stuff. So humans have caused the extinction of fish. It's causing it right now. But we have a few years left. Okay. I go, what else? I said, well, if you were here in 1970, the World Wildlife Foundation took a survey. How many animals are on planet Earth? They just redid the survey 2 years ago. And guess what they found? 2/3 of the entire animal population on Earth have disappeared since 1970. We only have 1/3 the number of animals left, and they're disappearing faster and faster. And that's because we are not living in harmony with the planet. And it says we need to change our behavior. And it's like Einstein said, it's the insanity, the idea of recreating the same behavior over and over again, expecting it to change. So we have to change the behavior. We're being forced to change that behavior. I said we're being forced in many different ways. I mean, The disruption of civilization. Well, we have racial issues, we have religious issues, we have economic issues, we have issues at every different level that humans are creating disharmony in the system. And then, of course, we're destroying the environment. And then nature comes back and gives us this pandemic and says, you guys haven't learned the lesson yet, and we don't need you in the garden anymore because humans are like a virus in the garden. They're destroying the garden. Nature says, get out, or learn to not repeat the same problems. And this is what we're finding in a moment of chaos in this world right now. It looks crazy. And I go, it is crazy for a very simple, fundamental reason. You cannot create a sustainable civilization on today's foundation of civilization. So civilization is causing a problem. So what do we experience? A breakdown. I go, why is this breakdown? I said, because if it doesn't break down, we can't build a new one. And if we don't build a new one, it's only a few decades and this one's done. So it's like we're being pushed in a hurry up fashion now. Do something. And what is it? Change behavior, because we've lost our connection with nature. And we should go back to the indigenous people, whether they're Aborigines in Australia, Native Americans, they're called, the Indians, which misnamed, but even Druids in Europe. These are the ancient indigenous people. I say, what about these people that's different than us? And the difference is that they saw the world as a garden, and they were gardeners to maintain the world. We see the world as resources, and have sucked all the resources out and then going, hey, can't continue this way. There's no resource. I go, yes, this is the problem. We have to change. So the chaos that you see, including this pandemic, which don't get me started on that, but you might, but don't get me started on that. This pandemic is part of this whole thing that says, look what happened. Jobs were changing. The way we were living, certain jobs were just not, you can't do these jobs anymore in this world. And all of a sudden it says, yeah, we're being forced to make a new world right now. And the idea is holding on to the old world is the worst thing you could possibly do, because it's not coming back, fortunately, because it didn't work. And that we're creating a new world right now. And that's why I thank Shay for being on this program, because you are an audience of what? People that are looking for answers outside of the box. And that's what represents a cultural creative. Don't look for the answers in the box. The box is where the problem is. The answers don't exist. Buckminster Fuller said, you want to change civilization, don't change civilization, leave it, build a new one, and then the people will come there. So we're in a moment of choice here. And it says, you're a participant in this evolutionary process right now. You're seeing it fall apart, and you got two choices. One, bemoan the fact it's falling apart. Oh my God, my life is so threatened. My job, I'm so afraid. It's scary. And I go, that, or say, it's falling apart, thank God, because now it's time for us to learn to live in a better way on this planet with each other. Learn how to live with each other, learn how to live with nature, and change the way we're living so we can create a civilization that can move into the future. So right now you have two choices. And unfortunately, most people are locked onto the old one falling apart. I go, let it go. It's the problem that we need to put together a new way of life on this planet. But to do that, then we also have to recognize this. We are creators. Oh, Bruce just said that. Fine. No, Bruce didn't just say this. Quantum physics is the most valid science on this planet. There is no science with more truth or been tested to be truer than quantum physics. So of all the sciences, quantum physics is the most valid. And I go, what's significant? And here it is. You ready? The primary principle of quantum physics is this world is an illusion. It's all energy. There's no such thing as matter, but our consciousness is creating the image of the world that we live in. In other words, human consciousness is manifesting this expression. And I say, well, we personally have our own consciousness for our own lives, but then we have collective consciousness, that's called culture, which is manifesting the bigger picture. And the programs that we have been given are programs of self-destruction. It's not programs of health and harmony at all. And the biggest issue outside, because quantum physics says our consciousness is creating this, and the problem is if you're creating extinction, then you need to change consciousness to create something that we can thrive into. And then all of a sudden this comes back to us. I say, why? But each of us is a creator. And that is the rule of quantum physics, the most valid science on the planet. Are you creating harmony? Or are you creating disharmony? I go, well, that's the big issue. I go, why is it a big issue? Because mind is the creator. Matter of fact, first day, quantum physics, day one, Max Planck, one of the founding fathers of quantum physics, the first statement is, the mind is the matrix of all matter. And that says what? The mind is creating this matter, okay? Since 1927. Let me just bring you a more recent story, which is in the journal Nature. And why I bring it up is Nature is the most prestigious scientific journal on this planet. And there was an article not long ago by a physicist by the name of Richard Conn Henry. The article was entitled The Mental Universe. I don't need you to read the article. I just need you to read the last sentence in that article. And I go, and remember, this is published in the most prestigious scientific journal on the planet. And here, I'll just read it for you. The last sentence is, the universe is immaterial, meaning it's not physical, it's immaterial, it's energy. And it goes, the universe is immaterial, it's mental and spiritual. Live and enjoy. Oh my God. The most prestigious scientific journal on the planet says what? That the universe is an energy field, and that the experiences that we have are derived from what? Our mental and spiritual states. It's like a scientific journal saying spiritual states. Like, whoa, we're coming into a new world, folks. And the idea is the belief system of the old physics, Newtonian physics, said the universe is divided into two realms, the material physical realm and the invisible energy realm, and they don't generally talk to each other. So whatever's made out of something physical will be affected by something physical. A body is physical. You want to change it? A drug, a pharmaceutical is a physical. You put the physical in the physical and you change it. But it separated energy and matter. And I go, so why is it relevant? Because consciousness is energy. Spirituality is energy. And I say in our conventional world, then we separate those, say they're not relevant to a physical body. Well, 1927, quantum physics comes in and said, you know that atom that you think is a physical thing? Well, they started to take it apart. At first, they thought it was just like one whole unit. The word atom in Greek means uncuttable, meaning that's the smallest piece of the universe is this atom. It's like a little sand grain. And I say, but in 1895, they found, oh, wait, there's something inside the atom. Electrons, protons, neutrons, oh, smaller particles. But when quantum physics came in, it basically says, so what are those smaller parts? What's a proton made out of? What's an electron made out of? And when they looked inside, guess what? There was nothing physical. It was energy. It was like nano tornadoes of force fields spinning. That's what an atom is. I go, wait a minute. The building block of an atom is energy. I go, yeah. Well, then atoms are made out of energy. Yeah. And molecules are made out of atoms. Yeah. And there must be atoms. Molecules are energy. And I go, yeah. Molecules make up humans. I go, yeah. And so are humans energy. And all of a sudden, that's very difficult for the average person to accept. Why? Oh, I can see you. I can touch you. You're a physical thing. And I go, those are both illusions. That you can see me is not based on the fact that I'm physical. It's based on the fact that I'm an energy unit. I go, so what? Energy is invisible. Then how can you see me? And it sounds like a joke, but it's the truth. You can see me because the lights are on. That sounds like a joke. I go, no, here's how it works. Photons from a light source bounce and hit the energy of which we are made out of. And when they hit that energy field, the photons are deflected back. So you're not seeing me. You're seeing a reflection of photons that are bouncing off the energy. Because underneath that layer of photons, I'm invisible. I'm an energy force field. And you go, really? I go, yeah. You know those scan systems like CAT scan or MRI scans, and they scan through the body and they can show you all the muscles, the bones, and all the pieces of the body in these scans. And I go, yeah, yeah. And I say, they don't read light, they read energy. They're looking through your body. It's energy. And they can focus at any level of that energy. And guess what? You see the structure. I say, yeah, but the structure that you see in a scan is not physical structure. It's an energy structure. That's what the scan reads. It doesn't read light. It reads energy fields. So I go, oh my God, when you look through the body with a scan system, the energy fields create the structure we are. So basically it says this, that being physical is an illusion of the light. That's right away. No light, can't see anything. Wow, that's exactly what a body looks like. It's in the dark and it's invisible. Okay. And then you go to the point you say, yeah, but if it's just energy, how come I could feel you? How come I could push on you? How come I could touch you if you're just energy? I say, what are atoms? Little vortices, little nano tornadoes, little force fields. Every atom is a force field. I go, so why is it relevant? I said, if there's a tornado spinning, and I said, take your car and go 100 miles an hour through the base of that tornado. Question is, if you go 100 miles an hour in a car and you focus on the base of the tornado, will you drive through that tornado? And the answer is absolutely not. The moment you hit the edge of that tornado, the force field of that tornado will lift up your car and throw it away. And so I say, oh, there's a field. You can feel it. Yeah, it's so powerful that it pushes back on you. It can lift up your car. So basically it says, oh, if I can feel something, there's a force. Does it have to be matter? I say, no, it's an energy force. A tornado is an energy force. So seeing something, feeling something is an illusion. Everything is energy. Now I go to the most important part, and that's where the physics comes in and says, guess what? It says that your experience of this energy is derived from consciousness, which is energy. Consciousness is an energy field. Yes, I could put wires on your head and read the energy of your mind. It's called electroencephalograph, EEG. So I say, so who we are in our consciousness is not physical. It's an energy field. And then I'm going to throw out one quote. I have to because it's an Einstein thing, and Einstein was so cool. He said this, the field, and that's the physics term for the energy in which we live. Okay. Energy. Yeah. I don't care where you are. Guess what? Cell phone broadcast, television broadcast, radio broadcast, solar energy. All of this is passing through right now wherever you are. You can't see them. They're energy fields. But according to Einstein, this is the most important quote. Ready? The field, the energy, is the sole governing agency of matter. The energy shapes what we perceive as matter. I go, so what? I say, your consciousness is an energy that is shaping your experience of matter. You change your consciousness and you change your life experience. And all of a sudden it says, wait a minute. So my consciousness is creating this. I go, why would I create this mess? Why, if I'm creating, man, I want to have that beach and the sun and the nice drink and sit there on the beach and enjoy my life. Why am I in a war? Why am I in a pandemic? Why is this thing falling apart? Why is structure of civilization collapsing? And the answer is that our consciousness is changing. And we need to change this consciousness because the consciousness that has shaped the current version of the world is the consciousness that's causing extinction. You want to move from here into the future? You've got to change consciousness because that's what's creating it. So we're being forced into a chaos. Everything seems to be falling apart. The jobs are being lost. The money's not coming in. All kinds of problems, put a mask on, do all this stuff like that. And I go, this is a breakdown of the current civilization. We have the Me Too generation about the women who've been pushed under the rug. We have the Black Lives Matter, where minorities have been pushed under the rug. We have the Green Revolution, which says you can't keep destroying the planet. We have to live in harmony. And I go, all of these things are rising to the top. I say, why? We cannot move into the future with these limitations that have been underneath the surface. We don't talk about a lot. Racism has always been there. Anti-religious from this one to the, it's always been there. Do you talk about it? Not necessarily, but is it there? Yes, it's there. That's why it's coming up. Why is it coming up? To move into a future that we thrive into, you can't have these suppressions continue with the future. So now they're coming up to the surface, things that don't work. I go, good. Why? Because if we see them come up to the surface, we know they don't work, then we are given the opportunity to change those things so that as we move into the future, we have fixed the past. Okay? So we're in a state of chaos.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you sharing that, Bruce. Sorry to cut you off. There's just a quick one that just came. There's a lot in there that you were sharing, and I really love it. I really love your background and where you are right now as well. But what I'm gathering is this level of shift in consciousness that we're going through as a collective is really necessary for our time right now. And what I love and what you share around looking back through Indigenous cultures and understanding that the way that they lived in the world based upon their perception of consciousness in this the word that you used to describe as animism, this perception that everything is like energy and everything is spiritual, everything is sacred, and there's this deep reverence for all of life. And so
Right.
how do we like really implement that into a kind of mainstream lens of the world that we see now? Obviously, it takes an individual to understand the concept and bridging that gap between science and spirituality. But for this to be widespread, is it like something that the whole systems of schools have to shift as well? Is it level of
the programming?
everything?
Okay, here's the issue.
Maybe you could explain, more on the how
Okay.
the consciousness works and the mind,
Right.
particularly with the subconscious and the conscious mind, and dive into that. Would be awesome.
That is actually where everything comes down to, where that's where the point of creation starts there. And I go, so why do we have a problem? And I go, well, quantum physics says our consciousness is creating this world. And I say, yeah, that's absolutely true. And then I look around and go, but I wouldn't have created this mess. And I go, then how come we're here? And so I'm going to back up 1 second and say the mind is actually what's controlling our biology. Okay, it's an energy field. It's been left out of medicine for 100 years or more because medicine said the body is made out of matter and it's only affected by matter. Hence, we take drugs, pharmaceuticals. But it turns out that illusion of matter is wrong, that consciousness is actually the energy field that shapes our physical experience. So I said, if you change consciousness, then you change your life experience. I go, yeah. Then all of a sudden I say, what shapes consciousness? And I go, then we step back, and here's the point. The brain is a computer. Absolutely, everyone understands. It's the most advanced computer that even humans can't make anything that comes near the power of the human mind in creating. Okay. So I said, but it is a computer. And I say, so why is it relevant? Well, the characters of the brain computer versus the character of the silicon-based computers that we use at home, Apple or whatever, those things. I say, they're both computers. And there's a characteristic to those computers. And I go, what? Give you an example. We go to the store right now and I buy a brand new laptop. I bring it home. I plug it in, push start. It boots up. All right. The computer's booted up. And now I say, do something, make a drawing, do a spreadsheet, write an essay. And you go, I can't use the computer. I mean, you just bought it. It's brand new. I go, not until I put programs into the computer can I use that computer. So you buy the computer, number one. Number two, you download programs, whether it's like Microsoft Word or any of the web browsers or anything. You can use the computer. First, you put the programs in. Once the programs are in, then the keyboard that you type on gives you an opportunity to engage that computer and engage with those programs. Okay, so I say, so there's 3 levels here. A, boot up the system. B, put the programs in. C, then access the use of those programs. I say, there's a time schedule. I say, what? In a baby's development, the brain boots up as a computer in the last trimester, the last 3 months of development. And I go, oh, so it boots up. And then I say, then what? I say, oh, phase 2, you have to download programs. I go, oh, how does that happen? I say, the brain of an infant is not operating at the level of consciousness like we're talking about here. The brain of an infant is at a lower vibration called theta. And theta is characterized as imagination. So I say a child between like 0 and 7 can engage in imagination, mixing it with the real world, because theta is imagination. I go, yeah, riding a broom and saying it's a horse. Well, the kid on the broom does not see it as a broom. Theta, imagination, has turned that broom actually into a horse. So the kid is riding a broom, but in their mind, it's a horse. Or, the famous tea party where you pour nothing into the cup and you drink nothing and you exclaim how wonderful the tea is. That's theta. But theta is hypnosis. And for the first 7 years, your brain is predominantly in theta and it's in hypnosis. I say, what does that mean? I say, it observes the world and downloads the behavior of other people. You watch your mother, you watch your father, you watch your siblings, you watch your community. And in a state of theta, you're not just watching them. It's like a video camera. You're recording their behavior and downloading it. So that's how you got some programs. I say, where'd you get the programs? Not from you. In a state of theta, you downloaded the programs by observing other people. So the fundamental programs in your brain computer didn't come from you, came from other people. And if they had a defect of any kind in their world and you copied them, then you downloaded that defect as well. And all of a sudden you start to see that what we download, these programs, are mainly the limitations that we have in our life. People say, oh, cancer is caused by a gene. It's called oncogene. I go, there is no gene that causes cancer. Not one gene causes cancer. It can be correlated with cancer, but it's not the cause. And I go, very important. Angelina Jolie, a beautiful young woman, has a double mastectomy in a perfectly healthy body to do what? Avoid the possibility of getting breast cancer that killed her mother and killed her grandmother, with the idea that the gene causes breast cancer. And I go, guess what? 50% of the women carrying that gene never get breast cancer. Well, wait. Possession of the gene doesn't mean you get cancer. No, half the women possess the gene and never get the cancer. So all of a sudden I said, well, then the gene didn't cause cancer, because if it did, then everybody's got the gene will get the cancer. I got, no, 50% don't. And all of a sudden we say, oh, cancer is not elicited by a gene. It's elicited by programming that we got in that first 7 years that is out of harmony with the world, and then manifests out of harmony in the body and expresses cancer, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's. These are all dysfunctions inside the community of cells. And I go, so why is it relevant? Because we have been blaming genes for the problems. Oh, I got a heart attack gene from my father. He had cardiovascular disease, and so do I. My mother died when she was 55, and her mother died when she was 58, and I'm 59. I think I'm about ready to die because that's running the genes of death run in the family. It's not genes. It's not genes. Genes are blueprints to do what? Make parts. What are the parts? Proteins. The physical body that you have is a protein mechanism. And the idea is the proteins that give us our shape. But proteins actually can change shape by responding to energy fields. I go, so why is that relevant? Where do you think life comes from? The movement of these proteins. So life didn't come from the genes. It came from the proteins that the genes were blueprints for. Okay? And I go, so why is it relevant? You blame the genes for the problem. I go, that's blaming the blueprint. I go, so how much control does the blueprint have? I say, go into an architect's office and she's working on a blueprint, and just ask her a question. Go, is your blueprint on or off? And she would look at you and go, hey, it's a blueprint. There's no on and off. I go, a gene is a blueprint. It does not have an on and off. And you have been led to believe that genes turn on and off and control you. You didn't pick these genes. You got them from your parents. If you don't like the traits, unfortunately, you can't change the genes. Then, of course, you leave off with the fact, oh, the genes turn on and off by themselves. I have nothing to do with it. And then you go, oh, I'm a victim of my heredity. My genes control my life. I'm just carrying around all these genes and they're going to control my life. And one day I'm going to cross the street and a gene's going to say, hey, cancer, let's have cancer. And all of a sudden you got cancer. You say the genes did. And I go, genes are blueprints. Genes do not turn on and off. That's false. Genes can be read or not read, just like the architect can read the blueprint or not read the blueprint. Gene didn't say, hey, architect, read me. No. So what's the point? Genes are blueprints. They're controlled by you. And this is the new science called epigenetics. The old science, which almost everybody's been programmed, is called genetics. This trait is under genetic control. Genes control this trait. And I go, yeah, but that's the old science. That's not valid. The whole thing is completely false. Genes don't turn on and off. They don't control themselves. I said, well, how are genes controlled? I said, signals from the environment. I go, oh, well, this is the new science. It's called epigenetic control. Sounds like genetic control, but epi is the revolution. Epi means above. What do you think they call skin? Epidermis. What does that mean? Just below the surface where the skin is, there's a layer under there called dermis. So the skin is above the dermis, epidermis. So I say, what's the new science? Epigenetic control. And what does it translate as? Control above the genes. I say, what controls it? Consciousness. And that's what quantum physics has said since 1927. Consciousness is controlling this. You are not a victim of your genes. You're the master of your genes. Now I say, well, then, okay. I didn't want this disease. I want to be healthy. I want to have great romance. I want to have a better job with a lot more money. And I go, okay, the mind is creating these images. And the mind is the creator. That's what quantum physics says. I go, so why is it relevant? How come your life doesn't look like the creation you want? How come you have great wishes and desires of being healthy and happy and enjoying life, and then you live here and you go, I don't like this. And then I say, you created this? And you go, I wouldn't create this. And I go, here's the problem. And I thank Shay for letting me come here to leave you with what is the actual problem. And the answer is this. The brain is involved with consciousness. It doesn't create consciousness, it translates consciousness. Consciousness is an energy, and the brain takes the energy of consciousness and translates it into physiology and biology. I go, so the brain is the computer that is controlling this. And I go, yeah, but there's two parts to this consciousness. One is called the conscious brain, and one is called the subconscious brain. Oh, wait, so the mind is not one thing. No, the mind is two things. I go, and guess what? They learn in different ways and they have different functions. So I say, okay, the latest evolution of the mind is the conscious mind. It's right behind your forehead, right here. I say, what is the conscious mind? It's you. It has you as an identity. It has you as a person. It has you as a spirituality. You are in the conscious mind. You are the thought maker, the creator of the thoughts of the conscious mind. And so I go, what's the other mind? Subconscious mind. I go, what's different? I say, conscious mind is creative. Wishes, desires, aspirations. What do you want from your life? If you answer that question, it came from the creative conscious mind. I go, and what about the subconscious mind? I go, hard drive database. I go, what do you mean? I say, it's got programs. I say, where'd you get the programs? Remember, the computer doesn't work if you don't put the programs in. Where'd you get the programs? The first 7 years of your life, your brain is operating at a lower vibration than the vibration associated with consciousness. It's operating at theta, which is imagination, but it's also hypnosis. And I go, so what's the relevant? For the first 7 years of your life, what are you looking at? Other people and observing their behavior. And I say, oh, it's like a video recorder. I'm watching mom, I'm watching dad, I'm watching my brothers and sisters. And what am I doing? Recording their behaviors. And I say, why? Where do you think the programs came from? If you had no one to record, the brain would have no function. It needs a program. Where do you get a program? Hypnosis, first 7 years. Observe the world, download what you just saw. Only problem is that's called subconscious. And conscious is you, but it's not operating yet. It really kicks in as a predominant activity age 7. So the first 7 years, you were in a download state without consciousness. I go, why is that relevant? If you were conscious, you would look and say, that's a good behavior, keep this one. That's a bad behavior, don't keep this one. Oh, but you're not conscious during those 7 years. So what? You downloaded behavior, good and bad, from those people around you. Then I go, oh, okay, but those are the programs. Once I get to be age 7, I can type my wishes and desires into the machine. I say, yes, when the conscious mind is working, you are in control of, accessing the data and writing it and controlling your life. And now here comes the whole problem that, Shay, this is why we're here. And here's what the problem is all about. That is this, that the conscious mind, the creative one, with imagination, vision, wishes, desires, the conscious mind can also think. So what does that mean? When the conscious mind is creating, it's looking out your eyes like the windows of a car. You're looking at where we're going. And when the conscious mind has got the hands on the wheel of your biology, it drives you to wishes and desires. But, and here's the whole thing, conscious mind can think. So what? I go, conscious mind can observe the world by looking at it. But when conscious mind is thinking, it's not looking at the world anymore because thinking is inside. So I redirect the attention. When I am thinking, I'm no longer using conscious mind to look out at the world. When I am thinking, my conscious mind is inside, looking for an answer. Like Shay, today's recording is on Tuesday. And if I said to you, Shay, tell me what you're doing on Thursday afternoon. And the issue is, if it's not written in front of you right now, I bet you in a minute or so you can tell me, oh yeah, on Thursday afternoon, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And I go, where'd you get that? Oh, I was thinking about it. I go, oh, so you took your attention, conscious mind, instead of looking out at the world, you focused inside. That's where thinking occurs. So when you're thinking, conscious mind is not looking out, it's looking in. And I go, oh, so then conscious mind, which is driving me to wishes and desires, and this is what I want, the moment is thinking, let's go of the wheel. I go, oh my God. Yeah, because if I'm thinking, I'm not looking out the windshield anymore. I'm looking inside. I go, oh yeah, but what if I am driving the car and I am thinking and I let go of the wheel, the conscious mind? I go, subconscious mind is autopilot. That's what I mean. I say, the moment I'm thinking, the subconscious mind will take over all routine chores that it knows. It knows how to walk. It learned that. It's a program. It learned how to talk. It knows how to do that. It learned how to ride a bicycle, learned how to drive a car. I go, why is it relevant? These are programs. So the moment you are thinking, the conscious mind lets go of the control, and the control is now taken over by the subconscious program. Yeah, but since about 70% of the things we downloaded as programs are disempowering or self-sabotaging or limiting programs, when we turn over the control to the autopilot subconscious, it doesn't take us to a better life. It almost always takes us to a worse life because the programs are not supporting us. We become self-critical because our parents were critical of us and they said, that's not good enough. Who do you think you are? You're not that smart. You're not that beautiful. And they didn't say that to permanently punish us, but they didn't know this. Whatever they said before age 7 was downloaded as a program without the conscious mind reviewing it. So if you grew up in a plant family and one of the parents said, you don't deserve this, you don't deserve this, and they repeated that, then you get a program that says, I do not deserve. Now, if you were conscious and your parents said, you do not deserve this, you go, oh, that's what my parents said. But then I say, but if you're unconscious and you got a program, I do not deserve, then your behavior will sabotage you so that in the end, when you look back, you go, I didn't get it. I guess I didn't deserve it. I go, yeah, because you're now living off of the program. Why? Conscious mind's thinking, subconscious autopilot with destructive behavior is now taken over. And I go, look at the world. We have been programmed to destroy this planet because we have been programmed to see that we're not part of nature, that somehow or other we're separate from nature. The Bible said that in Genesis. Oh, no. Nature was created. Then we added the humans and we gave them dominion, control of everything else. And then science comes in and says, well, that's not necessarily true. But guess what? We got here through random mutations. accidents. Then I say, then why are we here? And the answer is, hey, it was a whole bunch of accidents. So there was no purpose. I go, oh my God, again, separated from nature and science's mission statement to dominate and control nature. I go, oh my God. Somehow or other, we think we're so far above nature that we can control nature. I say, how's that working out? We're trying to control nature. I say, yeah, and guess what? In the process, we are creating our own self-destruction, mass extinction. So it says, you're not creating your life from wishes and desires. You're creating it from the programs 95% of the day. And the majority of those programs are disempowering. And then you look at the world and go, wow, this is crazy here. And I go, you are creating this with the other people who have been programmed. And if you want to change, you have to change the program. And when you change the program, you have power. And I say, just, to make it simple for people, if you've seen the movie The Matrix is like science fiction. I go, no, it's not. It's a documentary. Why? Everybody's been programmed. Yeah, but in the movie, you can get a choice of 2 pills, the red pill or the blue pill. I say, so what's the difference? You take the blue pill, you wake up and hey, that's the program. We're back to where everything is just the way it's always been. But if you take the red pill, you stop playing the program. I go, what happens if you stop playing the program? Then I give you this little piece of insight that when people fall in love, they stop thinking. What do you mean they stop thinking? I say, they stay present. They stay what is called mindful. I say, why? When I'm thinking, I'm not being here. I'm letting go. But what if that person came into your life that you've been looking for your whole life and it's so exciting? This is not a time to think. This is time to be here and enjoy this. So you stay mindful. I say, so what happens when you fall in love and you stay mindful? It's the red pill because you're not playing the program. I say, and what was the result of not playing the program when you fell in love? And the answer was you created the honeymoon. I say, what's the honeymoon? Heaven on earth. I go, wait a minute. I created heaven on earth. Yeah, when you fell in love. I say, well, how'd you do that? Because science has recognized falling in love is one of those things that stops you from thinking and keeps you in the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, you're not defaulting to the program. You are now creating. And I say, and what happens when 2 people fall in love and they stop using the programs? They manifest wishes and desires, conscious mind, which is what? Heaven on earth. And then I go, geez, and there's an unfortunate part about that because the honeymoon doesn't last forever. I go, what happened? I created heaven on earth. What happened? I said, I created with 2 conscious minds come together because conscious minds are creative, wishes and desires. And that's why they made heaven on earth. And I said, well, in the beginning, we're not thinking. But as time goes on, guess what? 2 other minds come in here. I say, what are they? The subconscious minds. They didn't play. They weren't playing when you first fell in love because you weren't defaulting to the program. So your partner has never seen your very bad programs in the subconscious mind until now. When? At some point, you still have to think. You got a job, you got chores, you got responsibilities. Even if you're in love like this, you still got to start thinking about them. And the moment you start thinking about them is the moment you default to the subconscious programs. And all of a sudden, these bad programs show up and your partner looks at you and goes, who are you? Where did that come from? And I go, you just dropped into the program again. And because you were thinking, you didn't even see what you said. And as a result, you had no idea that you just created some behavior out of a dustbin of old bad behaviors. You didn't even see it. Only your partner saw it. And when your partner sees the bad behavior and you didn't even see you did it, then guess what? That's an argument. What did I say? I didn't do that. Back and forth. And I go, honeymoon is going out the window. And the more thinking we're doing, the more those bad programs show up and the more the honeymoon disappears. And I say, this planet needs us to be back on the honeymoon. All of us have to be in the honeymoon. Why? Because in the honeymoon, we create harmony, love, joy, a garden. We create these things from that point of view. So we need this really, all of us have to start falling in love. And here's the biggest problem. Nobody really knows it, but I'll tell you, Shay, so that the others can hear. The biggest problem is this. 80 to 90% of the population does not love themselves. I go, what do you mean? Well, they were criticized as kids, not good enough, not smart enough, not lovable, not this, not that. And I go, yeah, but that's a program. And I say, yeah, but 95% of your life comes from that program. And therefore, you become self-critical. I'm not lovable. I'm not deserving. I don't have this, that. I go, so why is it relevant? Then 95% of your life is not coming from the creative wishes. 95% is coming from the program. And if the program has, I do not deserve, then the behavior that will result from that program will do what? Illustrate a simple fact. You do not deserve, because that behavior will sabotage you. In the end, you'll look around and go, guess I didn't deserve that. It's like, well, that's because your belief is that way. And so the issue is this. The first thing we have to do is learn how to love ourselves. Because 80-90% of us will not test positive for I love myself. And I say, where's the problem with that? And I say, if you can't love yourself, no one else can love you either. Why? If I'm not lovable and you come up and you say, Bruce, I love you. And I go, you got no quality control, because personally, I know I'm not lovable. So, your love story, I can't buy it. Why? Because I'm not lovable. And then you push them away. And then guess what happens? They're gone. And then you say, see? I'm not lovable. There's nobody here. It's like you push them away. So I'm going to summarize. I didn't say the story of Bill yet, did I, Shay? Did I? I'll just do this because in one brief story, it puts it all into perspective. And here's the story. You have a friend. You know your friend's behavior very well. And you happen to know your friend's parent. And one day you see your friend is displaying the same behavior that the parent has. You can't wait. You just got to say it. You just got it. And you say, hey, Bill, you're just like your dad. And I say, back away from Bill. The moment you say that, I know what Bill's response is going to be. And you already know it too. He's going to say, how can you compare me to my dad? I'm nothing like my dad. And the audience laughs and everything. I go, that's the most profound story in the world, because first of all, we're all Bill. All of us are doing this. I go, what is it that we're doing? I say, Bill is playing his father's behavior. And when told he's like his father, he denies it. And I go, how can he deny it? And the answer is because why is he playing his father's behavior? The answer is because he's thinking. I say, well, when he's thinking, is he watching the behavior that's unfolding? I say, nope, he's thinking. His consciousness is inside. So whatever behavior is coming out is just a straight readout of the program he got from his parents. And most of those programs are disempowering and self-sabotaging. And 95% of the day, you do the math and you realize, I'm not creating the life I want. I'm creating the life I've been programmed to have. I go, wow. Guess what? The idea of programming is 400 years old. The Jesuits knew about it 400 years ago, and they would tell their followers, give me a child until it is 7, and I will show you the man. What were they saying? You listen. Give me the 7 years of programming. Give me the child until it's 7, programming. And the rest of the life of that child is going to be 95% for the program. So if I make the program, I have created the man. Oh my God. For 400 years, people have known that if I can control your first 7 years, I own your life. And if you think that Jesuit story disappeared, are you kidding me? They're programming people better today than the Jesuits could ever have imagined. We've all been programmed. And we've all been programmed to be disempowered so that other people can take power over us. We're programmed to be victims. Oh, health is not in your hands. Health is in the hands of the doctor. He's a professional. Didn't you learn the program when you were a kid that when you had an issue with health, we took you to the doctor? Why did we take you to the doctor? Because the doctor knows and you don't. And all of a sudden, program, when it comes to health, I have no idea what it's all about. But if the doctor tells me, then that's the truth. I go, oh, you got a problem. Because if the doctor gives you a negative prognosis, you're going to die in 30 days, in 90 days, you're going to die. And I say, yeah, but what's the program? Program is, I don't know about my life, but the doctor in the program is the one that determines my health. So whatever that doctor says, that's the truth. And if the doctor says you're going to die in 90 days, guess what? Subconscious program will start a clock that will count down 90 days. And about 90 days, you're going to die. I go, why? because that's a belief you bought. You bought it from somebody you gave power to. I give my power over my life to that doctor because I don't know about doctors, but doctors know about me. So I said, what did you do? You gave up your power to somebody else. And systematically, we have found during our developmental programming, there are things that we don't know about. And there are professionals, and that when it comes to an issue that the professional knows about and you don't know about, you defer to the professional's opinion. And therefore, we buy other people's beliefs, and then we make them our own beliefs. If you believe the doctor is the truth provider and the doctor says your hair is going to fall out next week, your hair is essentially going to fall out next week. It's called, there's two aspects. One is called the placebo effect. I go, what's that? The belief that a pill is going to heal me because the doctor just told me this is the greatest, newest pill. And, we haven't been able to deal with your issue, but now that we have this pill, this is going to heal you. And you take the pill and you get better and you say, thank God for that pill. And then we find out it was a sugar pill. Then what the heck healed you? Not the pill, the belief in the pill. I go, oh, that's a positive belief that I'm going to heal from this pill. I go, yeah. And I say, what about a negative belief? I go, equally powerful, but in the opposite direction. Negative belief is I'm a victim. And all of a sudden, yes, now I'm a victim because that's what I believe. A negative belief is I'm going to get cancer because that's what's running in my family. And I know Jane said, and all of a sudden I'm going to get a cancer. And I go, no, you didn't get the cancer from the belief. You got it from the program that wasn't in harmony. And so I say, why is this relevant? The negative beliefs are equally powerful in creating the world as our positive beliefs, but they work in the opposite direction. It's called nocebo versus placebo. And I go, so why is it relevant? It's the science that reveals your consciousness is creating this world. A placebo effect, you have consciousness power over something and you became the powerful person. The nocebo effect, the negative ones, I'm weaker than this and that controls me. Now all of a sudden I'm weak and it controls me. That's a belief. So belief controls whether it's positive or negative. And unfortunately, Shay, most people's beliefs are not very positive, and therefore manifestation of the world didn't come from our conscious mind. It came from the programming that's been passed generation to generation. And now nature says, you must stop this program because within the next few decades, if you don't change, the environment will collapse to an extent that you will not survive on this planet. And we are in that process. So the chaos of the world is very positive. It's positive for this reason. It says that we need to change it. If it doesn't change, the extinction is looming right in front of us. Chaos is, it's falling apart. And I go, thank you, because you cannot build the future to survive on the foundation of today's world, because that's the one that's causing the problem. So for all the people out there and you're looking at the world and going, oh my God, it's falling apart, it's crazy. I go, that's a really good positive sign. Why? It's the opportunity to build a new world on a new belief foundation as the old world is collapsing. Buckminster Fuller said, you want to change the world? Don't go in and change the world. Build a new world over here, and those people will come to your new world. And Shay is offering an opportunity through his programs to give you insight into how can I change me to change the world. And this is where it's going to come from. We're not passive in evolution. We are creators of evolution. But to do that, you have to let go of limitation and start to buy in how powerful this mind is to create what you want. I kept going on and on, Shay. I didn't give you a chance to jump in there. Why don't you give me a couple of questions there? We'll work on that.
Bruce, I just want to thank you. You're an absolute legend, mate. I really appreciate everything you shared. And I love the way that you're able to just really explain at clear depth, what we perceive in our reality and bring it back inwards. And I just really wanted to honor you and thank you. You've been huge in my life, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers will agree that, and we're getting the comments coming through that you've been hugely significantly in changing their lives too. And I've just dropped in the comment section there, if you want to get more information on Bruce Lipton and his work, he's got amazing content on YouTube that he's doing. Alex Lipton, which is great. There's so many great books. amazing resources that are available for free on his website. I mean, there's just an ocean out there of information, but also the practices. Like, what I really love about what you share in this moment is so empowering for us in this time, because it really puts emphasis on that we can make the change within if we put in place the right tools to be able to shift even those programs. And that's the positive thing out of all of this, is that it can change. And this spontaneous evolution that you write about is happening, and we are participating in it. So it's just really cool to
I'm a happy student of the whole thing myself, Shay, I'll tell you, because I grew up in a dysfunctional family, you know, and for 40 plus years, I was looking for that partner I needed to make my life complete. And then very quickly, I was in the Caribbean, and I was just looking for somebody to come and share their life with me so I would have happiness. And so I was depending on somebody to bring me happiness. And I met this woman who came off a yacht, and I was living in the Caribbean. And I said to her, hey, you know, I had the perfect setup line. I had a house, a villa on the Caribbean, on the coast, with a beach and everything, and I had a job where I worked 1.5 days a week, and I had money in my pocket and everything going for me. So I said to this woman, hey, instead of going back on a yacht, why don't you come and hang out in my villa? You know, it was a beautiful pickup line. But she looked at me and goes, and just went like this, I can't be with you. And so it's like, for a moment, it's like, huh? And she looked at me and says, you're too needy. And I went, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, thank you, I needed that. It was a wake-up call, because I walked away from that thinking, how come Bruce cannot be happy with all these things about his life? He's got a great job, he's got a great place to live, he's got money in his pocket, he lives in the Caribbean. I said, you can't be happy, Bruce, with all these things? You need somebody? That's called codependency. And I realized at some point, if I can't be happy with myself, then anybody I try to bring in, I'm going to be dependent upon them to bring happiness. And I realized that's called codependency. Why? If you stop giving me happiness, we're in a lot of trouble. And basically, it came down as I walked away from that action. I said, you better start learning to be happy with yourself. Because if you can't be happy alone, then any relationship you get into was only predicated on the fact that I needed somebody. And that is the worst form of relationship ever, because codependency says, I need you, and I'll put up with your crap as long as I could, you know, I still need you. And how many people stay in a relationship that's crap because they need each other, but they don't really like it, because if they're separated, that's worse. I'd rather be in a crap relationship than no relationship. That's what people believe. I learned otherwise. Why? Because I said the biggest problem is we don't love ourselves. And that was the fact that I had to do. I said, can I be happy with myself? New idea. Let's try it out. And what happened was I started to recognize I don't need anybody. I have all the wonderful things I want to do. I got, you know, I could watch movies. I could play on a computer. I could go snorkeling in the backyard. I could do any damn number of things. And I was like, you can't be happy with these things. I said, I better. And that's all of a sudden what changed my whole life was once I became happy with myself, then there were people who wanted to be a partner with me because they wanted to share that as well. And all of a sudden it's like, I couldn't find somebody. Now it's like, no, I don't really want anybody. I'm doing pretty good by myself, you know. But that allowed me to meet my lovely partner, Margaret, and ultimately write that book you mentioned, The Honeymoon Effect. Here's a guy who couldn't keep a relationship going for hours, ending up living the last 23 or so years in a honeymoon. Why? Because we both knew there were two minds. We both knew that our conscious minds were in harmony with each other. And we both knew that some glitches in the subconscious programming could interfere. And we both knew we could reprogram. And that was the secret. Because instead of getting into an argument where all of a sudden one of my program behaviors shows up and creates a problem, that we learned that if it showed up, it's not me consciously, it was a program. And therefore, if we change that program, so the first part of our relationship was what? Anytime a negative program came up was to turn it into a positive, change it into a positive program. And I go, so what was the result? once you run through that collection of negative programs, you straighten them all out. Guess what? Without thinking, without putting any effort into it, we've been having a honeymoon experience for over 22 years at this point. I go, why? Because our behaviors have no longer got those negative glitches that would cause or provoke an argument. And I want to tell you, so what? Creating heaven on earth for 23 years? I love my life. Are you kidding? When I wrote The Biology of Belief, the first page says something like, when asked previous to this knowledge that I acquired, who do I want to be? The answer was anybody but me. And now you ask me, who do I want to be? I'm happy being myself, man, because I have a most wonderful life, Shay. And this is not an accident. This is an understanding of physics and epigenetics and biology and taking back power, because we have been systematically disempowered. And when you take it back, in the middle of all this chaos, I don't live in that chaos. Around me is a field of harmony and love. The people I know in my community are different than the world as we know it. But if each of us is creating one of these communities and they grow, then they touch each other, and then the communities merge together, and more people are starting to recognize we could live heaven on earth here. We don't have to put up with this crap. And the more people that do that, the more heaven on earth is created. And guess what? In the future, we'll all be self-empowered to create heaven. And then in the truth, heaven and earth become one and the same. And that's the destination.
That is amazing, Bruce. I'm really just so grateful for you, and so excited. It gets my cells in my body, tingling for what's to come in the world when that integration is here and alive. And I couldn't think of a more integrated, embodied, and great example for this life and how we can live it. So, Bruce, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate everything that you share, your life work, your books, and of course, thank you to you guys for watching. This is Bruce Lipton from The Honeymoon Effect, Biology of Belief, Spontaneous Evolution. So many great books, great work out there. Just full respect to you, brother. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you, Bruce.
Shay, I just also want to thank you for this opportunity to talk to your audience, because your audience represent people who are looking for answers that are not necessarily in the box. And I'm so honored to have an opportunity to say, yes, there are wonderful answers that are not in the box. And if you live by these new understandings, then heaven on earth is a creation that you have available to you every day, a honeymoon. Every day you wake up and go, oh my God, I'm still here and I'm so in love. Not just love with my partner, Margaret, love with life, love with myself, love with the world that I'm experiencing. There's nothing better than that. And I know that because my first 50 years was not that way at all. And since then, the last 25 or 26 years has been a whole new world experience. And the whole thing was what? Reprogram.
So much hope and potential for the future. Bless you, Bruce. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you so much. And my love to all those people out there, because when we start coming together, heaven is what you'll wake up to every day. It is wonderful.
The future is so bright. Thanks, guys. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Shay.